Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Start a Board Game Company with Off the Page Games. I'm Jay Cormier. Thanks for joining us. So this week I'm actually going to announce the first game that Off the Page Games is going to be publishing, and I'm really excited. And it's pretty much the whole reason why this company even exists is because of this game. So let me just announce it right off the bat. The first game from Off the Page Games is going to be a game called Mind Management. Now this is a game that is based on a comic book by Matt Kindt, a brilliant and talented creator and artist and writer that created this series. And it's a comic book. I'm going to show you a few of the graphic novels here. This is volume 1. There are 6 volumes of it, and I'll just go show you the covers of them because they're very, very cool covers, very funky, very interesting. This is volume 4. Look at that. Isn't that wild? The Magician. And volume 5. Now what this whole series is about, the last one, really cool. What this whole series is about an agency called Mind Management that has existed for a long time, that has always been kind of in the background of society and has been kind of controlling the outcome of world events because they've created these agents through their training of mind skills. They can do all these amazingly creative and wonderful things with training and help through the school. And so that's been going on for a long time, and they've been shaping the world. And then eventually there's some rogue agents kind of splinter off from that and start to realize that they're messing up around with the world a little bit too much. Like maybe they shouldn't have this much power, because it's like, why are they the ones to dictate this is the way the world should be shaped? And so they kind of split off and kind of decide to try to stop mind management and collect other people, like-minded people, and try to go after the leader of that group. And that's pretty much the core concept of the story. And it is very trippy, full of a lot of mind twisty kind of elements, as you can imagine, with a comic with the word mind in the actual title. A lot of really cool mind manipulation stuff. And one of the things I really like about it is that Matt Kindt really likes to take advantage of the medium that he's in this case comic books, and he'll put things in the columns, in the margins, and that are like extra little storylines. He'll put things in when you buy the comics individually on the inside and back of covers that are totally different stories. I think they're called Stories from the Second Floor, and there's just a different story that you get for free for buying the single issue comics, and just really taking advantage of it. So this is pretty exciting. I'm excited to make this my first game because this is my favorite comic book in the last 20 years. So I definitely highly recommend reading it if you like kind of really cool, trippy, in a fun way. It's accessible, like it's accessible and successful. So it's not super like weird and like what's going on. It's a little like that for the first graphic novel. You're like, what's happening? But it's like more like a mystery, like what is happening? And even once you get to the end of the first graphic novel, it's amazing as far as the storyline is like, oh my gosh, you're just hook, line, and sinker. So that's really cool. I've been a big fan of Matt Kindt for a long time. I remember probably close to a decade ago, I went to Emerald City Comic Con and I saw him sitting in the artist alley, artist row, whatever it's called, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's Matt Kindt. I liked him. Then this is before Mind Management even came out, and he was doing things like Super Spy. And this is an extra thing called the Lost Dossiers of Super Spy, and Super Spy is one of my favorite comic books as well, and just a really, really cool and really creative. It's hard to show on in here, but like just really weird and cool stuff that he's doing, just amazing. So he was selling prints of some of his work, and I got actually a framed copy of one of his prints, which is pretty cool. So this is hanging in my office that I get to look at, and this is from Super Spy. So to me, that is amazing. And then I got him to do a commission for me, of course, of Indiana Jones, because that's my favorite thing. As you maybe see sometimes in the background, there's some Indiana Jones type stuff. So that's pretty cool. And then what happened was a couple of years ago, Sen and I bumped into him. We kind of had a arranged meeting through Fortune and Glory, that we got to meet Matt Kindt at Gen Con. And so we got to meet up with him, and he was just getting into board games in the biggest of ways. Like, you know, this moment in your life when you got into board games and you're like, this is the most amazing thing. I have to buy every board game that ever existed. And so he was in that phase, and he was buying a lot of games at that Gen Con that year, and he was excited about everything. And he was familiar, I think he was familiar with one of our games. It might have been Akrotiri, I can't remember. But he was familiar with it and or had played it. I can't remember. But after that and through that, we decided, wouldn't it be cool if there was a mind management board game? And I started getting giddy, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. And we decided, like, let's do it. And we decided to make a mind management board game. And so we worked on it for a couple of years and came up with something finally that was great. And we finally got it to pitch to a publisher, and we pitched it to Maple Games, if you remember them. And unfortunately, and they signed it, and so we were all kind of planning and ready for it to come out. But unfortunately, Maple Games didn't survive. So then we got the rights back, and then we had a discussion about what to do next with the game. Like, okay, so now we got to start again and figure out who can we pitch it to and whatnot. And even at the time, the father company, the head parent, I guess, the parent company, it's weird, of Maple Games is Matago, and they actually expressed interest in publishing it. They said, well, we'll publish it. He was a fan of mind management as well as the comics, so he's like, we'll still publish it if you want, but it'll just be a bit delayed because we just want to work through our things and what's going on, or whatever the reasons were. And so that made us think, and we had to kind of talk about it, and it was actually he was the one that kind of said, well, you know what, why don't we just do it ourselves? He goes, I'm the artist, I'll do all the art for it, brand new art. And he has a background in graphic design, so he's actually going to do the graphic design and all the layout and the pre-press. And Sen and I obviously have the design done, but now I decided, well, I'll take this upon myself because I have the capacity and the time to actually run a company. So that's what I'm doing. So this is it. This is mind management. Let me show you another thing that really makes Matt Cain cool is that and creative is he just recently put it on himself. He put a mind management record and storybook on Kickstarter, and it made a boatload of money. Like, he was really excited about it. But it's just, you remember these kind of books when you're a kid and you'd read it and it would go ding and you'd turn the page with the record and whatnot? The same kind of thing here, but now it's a comic book. And if you, it's really pretty clever if you were to read this. You're supposed to read this while listening to the record, but if you do either in either order, you kind of get a bit of a different story, so that's kind of cool. And then he just takes advantage of the medium again. So there's actually a comic book on one side and another one on the other side of this slipcase, and then there's the it's so awesome. It's team building. Look at that. Isn't that funny? I love it. Okay, so now as a company, we have a game that we want to tell everyone about. So now we have to figure out how to announce this to the world. So I've got this video which reaches only the people that are interested in starting a board game company, so it's not a big enough announcement platform. But then we're going to be doing social media and trying to obviously tag the creator, Matt Kint, and so he can then rebroadcast that out to his following. So I'm going to be pretty much doing something on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I don't want to just make it all text, so we had Matt actually draw something up for us. So let me show you. Okay, so this is what Matt did for us. Let me zoom in here. He did this really cool graphic here, the game of mind management, the game that loves to play you. This is pretty awesome. Now, this isn't the cover, this is not the board, this is just something literally we can use for the announcement, and it's just super cool. It really kind of captures the mind of the game, the kind of theme of everything looks kind of happy and pleasant, almost 1950s, 1960s style, but a gun and a knife and people are just brawling in the backyard. This is great. And so what I did is I took this and I'm going to put this in social media, put my logo in there, and this is the wordage that I have went with, and the highly anticipated first game from Off the Page Games is Mind Management, a one versus many game with hidden movement, clever deduction, and unexpected twists. So it took me a while to kind of even write this and get it down to its core concept. Had even some help from my wife, because she's a marketing director and kind of knows these kind of things better than I do. So yes, I think that's kind of succinct and kind of gives you a little bit, even tells you the mechanic of the game, that it's a one versus many hidden movement game. So that's going to appeal to those kind of people. yeah, clever deduction, unexpected twists. Can't wait to share with you some of these unexpected twists, like really, really unexpected. I'm going to be trying to take advantage of the medium of a board game, just like Matt took advantage of the medium of comics and of the record and book. And then below this, I'm putting, based on the New York Times bestselling comic by Matt Cain. Yes, it's a New York Times bestselling comic, so that's amazing. And coming to Kickstarter early 2020. So I think this will be a nice little thing that I can put on my social media. So if we go to the social media page, so I've created a off the page Facebook page. I think I'll have a whole nother episode about social media and how to use it for a company, but I did create this. I haven't done anything with it. Even the image up here is of my prototype of the game, which is really yucky clip art. So I can't wait to update this. Matt's currently working on a new board. That's a top priority right now, is getting a cool looking board so that we can show something off, because this looks really janky. And so basically I'm going to put that image into here, write a post, and then maybe even and then of course tag Matt in it, and then I'll do the same in Twitter and the same in Instagram. But the thing is, I want to make sure is that each of the posts has something different to it. So I'll probably maybe rearrange the graphic or use it in a different way in each one. I found that you don't want to just spam this exact same content on all three platforms, that you want to tailor it a little bit to each one. I think the Instagram one will just be just the image, and then I'll put some information below, and I won't have that other text in the image, whereas the Facebook one I think will have that extra text in the image, etc., etc. So I'm still learning a lot about the social media from a business perspective and how to leverage them differently and uniquely, the three ones. So we'll get into that in another episode, I guess. That's the announcement. What this means is that now going forward, I can show you some more in-depth kind of things about how we're planning out some of the art and some of the prototyping and getting into that kind of stuff, because that's kind of what I'm focused on right now, is really trying to get all the art assets lined up, even if they're not going to be the final art assets, just enough so that we can get some better play tests. And now I have a different eye for everything. This is pretty interesting, because for designing, I always make things functional and playable, but they're not pretty. They're just functional. So I get clip art. It's nice and clean, not too busy. But now I have to actually think differently, which is a fun challenge, because I've just recently, I'm looking at this prototype, played it just a couple nights ago, and I'm like, yeah, there's like too many words on these cards. It's just too much to read. I got to find a way to iconography them. So a lot of neat, interesting new challenges, and we'll get into detail in upcoming episodes about the art, not the art as far as from the artist, just your own art and the prototype art, because that's pretty interesting to me too. So that's it for this week. Thanks for sticking around for my announcement. My name's Jay Cormier.